Hope you're having a very good day, and I hope your life is filled with abundant wealth and great health, and you're staying safe out here in this COVID world. So today is May 12th, 2020. This is a small article from the Wall Street Journal. This article dates back to, I believe, March. We'll find out in a second. I'm going to read the title right now. It says Washington State okays facial recognition law seen as national model. This has been on my heart, so I decided to look it up. Microsoft-backed bill sets limits but doesn't ban the technology. They set limits. Facial recognition is going mainstream. The technology is increasingly used by law enforcement agencies and in schools, casinos, and retail stores, spurring privacy concerns. In this episode of Moving Upstream, Wall Street Journal's Jason Bellany tests out the technology at an elementary school in Seattle and visits a company that claims its algorithm can identify potential terrorists by their facial features alone. Now, they gave you the cons, and then I guess they gave you the pros at the end of it, so obviously they're kind of for the whole thing. You wouldn't give the pro first and then the con last, you know what I mean? The con is the fact that it's spurring privacy concerns, right? That's a con. And then the pro is the fact that, oh yeah, we can identify terrorists. So you got to remember that you'll be exchanging your security for your what is it? I've heard the line a gazillion times. You're trading your personal stuff for your safety, whatever personal stuff is. Can't think of the word right now. Moving along. Moving along. Washington State adopted a Microsoft-backed law enshrining the most detailed regulations of facial recognition in the United States, potentially serving as a model for other states as use of the technology grows. Governor Jay Inslee signed the law Tuesday, allowing government agencies to use facial recognition with restrictions designed to ensure it isn't deployed for broad surveillance or tracking innocent. Now, obviously, when you have these different surveillance agencies, usually you'll find a bad apple out of the bunch that will break the law. So even though that they're saying that they're not going to do it for nefarious reasons, it's kind of obvious that they're going to do it for their own agenda for nefarious reasons. I don't see anything good coming out of facial recognition. I don't support any type of cameras that are going to be in front of my house and be able to relay to me what time I left. I don't even think it's humane to do. We're not dogs. We're not cats. You already have us. You have us on Facebook. You have our cell phones. Our cell phones can locate and tell you where we're at. I don't think you really need to see our faces. This technology has happened in Washington State, mind you. This is not in Washington, D.C. This is in Washington State. It's far on the west side, west coast, and it's like north. The other detail that I wanted to point out was that this was done on March 31st, 2020. That's when this article was put out. And that's when this law was passed, probably within days or minutes after this article was done. So you could basically just say that this law was passed by this Governor Jay Inslee. Governor Jay Inslee more than likely is receiving subsidies through Microsoft because of the fact that he decided to go along with this facial recognition. And Microsoft, who wants to plant a microchip in you that's really soft, I'm just saying that, I don't know it, but I came up with that recently. But Microsoft would love to see everything that you do. And they need to get ahead of the game too. They don't want to be behind in Google. Google is so far ahead of them in certain areas. I guess Microsoft needs to vaccinate you, and not only does Microsoft need to figure out a virus and vaccinate you, but Microsoft also needs to see your face for facial recognition as well. I did a small case study. If you see it on the screen here, and I'll read it, it says February 29th, 2020 was the first reported death in the United States. Holy cow, what the heck? Listen to this. I just came across something. The first COVID-19 death is reported in no other than, I'll be darned, Washington State. That was in February 29th. This, not even a month later, they started talking about facial recognition. That's really weird, isn't it? What are the odds in that? This governor, Jay Inslee, was already attacked by the COVID virus. Somebody died in Washington State. And that's the same state that decided to start passing all of these laws for facial recognition. What's the odds in that? You know what that tells me? That's an omen to say that, well, I don't know what kind of omen it is actually. I mean, this guy decides to sign facial recognition afterwards. You know, obviously they can't even view our faces right now because we're all wearing masks. So you're looking in countries like China, Russia, London, and in places in particularly places in Russia too. Like I was saying, Russia, they couldn't stand it. The people started revolting. The younger crowd couldn't stand the fact that they're being filmed everywhere. They were getting arrested, getting put in jail over facial recognition. Do you hear me? The youth were revolting in Russia. Think about that. You think about that for a second. Over facial recognition. You know why? Because they got tired of the government harassing them every time when they went somewhere. Think about that for a moment. I could pull up the guy's picture, but I'm not going to. But this governor Jay Inslee, think about him. You think he cared about that? He didn't. He doesn't care. I just thought that was really interesting. Alright, that article, and I linked that article to the first COVID death. I mean, that's literally incredible. This is, by the way, this is, if I could cursor for you a little bit. ABC News. It says first COVID-19 death is reported in Washington State after a man with no travel history to China dies on February 28th at Evergreen Health Medical Center in Kirkland, Washington. 2 deaths that occurred February 26 at a nearby nursing home would later be recorded as the first COVID-19 deaths to occur in the United States. Later, still a death. So, I mean, think about that. Here it is, your buddy Bill Gates, right? Deciding, he wants to vaccinate you. He wants to. Something's going on over there in Washington State, There's something real serious going on over there. It might be like, that's like, I know they're saying like, oh, New York's ground zero, okay? But if you really think about how serious facial recognition is, I told you, the youth started to revolt in Russia. Think about that. They started revolting in Japan or something like that too, right before all of this mess was going on, before the COVID. It's too much power when people could see when you're gonna go buy a bag of chips and know your first, last, middle name. They know the date of birth you were. They know your height. They know what you wore last week because they just got finished clicking on the same clothes, the same thing that you wore last week. It's too much power. They start seeing that you're on the same route. They start setting up different things to see if you'll change. Just to play with your mind. They'll put up cell phone towers. They'll put up they'll put up some towers around you. See how you react. Watch your facial expressions. And then they'll laugh. Call your phone. Say that they're a telemarketer. Laughing, looking at you, responding. And don't forget about the party. When someone gets to hack the facial recognition program. Hack the database on that. Wouldn't that be cool? Microsoft's been hacked a bunch of times. If man can make it, man can break it. So, I'm just trying to just keep it real with you. I share some information with you. And personally, I do not want to see, no, I don't want to see the, I'm going to say it again, no, I don't want to see facial recognition. And by the way, that's it. I'm just going to keep this plain, clean, and straight. I don't want to see any facial recognition. And fortunately, we don't have to really be too concerned about it because of the whole COVID mask thing, I think. However, hey, because we're on quarantine, like in my state, we're under quarantine, and over here in, I ain't going to mention it right now, maybe later on. But because we're under quarantine here, and we have a curfew of 8 o'clock, they could be putting up cameras all over the place. It don't have to be no stupid towers that y'all are concerned about. It could just be cameras for recognition, all across the freaking U.S. You don't even know it. It'll be like that song. I put up that camera, you don't even know it. I'm looking at your face, you don't even know it. I got facial recognition, you don't even know it. I'm just saying. That's how it's going to be, but they going to make sure that you know, because they can't help it. Alright, on to the next one. Peace.